Hey, everybody, welcome. Welcome to the 16th annual Fall Luncheon for the St. Louis Police Foundation. I cannot imagine the pride that the foundation has knowing that, A, we've been doing this for 16 years now. This is my 15th year being here with you all. And B, that it is bigger and I guess in some ways better than it ever has been. So that is hats off to you. How about a round of applause? You cannot get another person in this room. And I think it points out just how much this day, this luncheon, this time together is needed. To get started this morning, this afternoon, I'd like to invite everyone to please rise as the St. Louis Police Honor Guard posts the colors and remain standing for our national anthem, presented today by Police Officer Eva Millar Galvan.
Oh, say, can you see by the dawn's early light what so proudly we hailed at the twilight's last gleaming, whose broad stripes and bright stars through the perilous fight o'er the ramparts we watched were so gallantly streaming, and the rocket's red glare, the bombs bursting in air, gave proof through the night that our flag was still there. Oh, say, does that star-spangled banner yet wave o'er the land of the free and the home of the brave?
Please remain standing and bow your heads as Father Michael Caruso offers our invocation.
Let us pray. Lord, creator of the world and our heavenly protector, we gather today to give thanks for the men and women who serve us in our beloved police department. We pray for their families and all who support them. Please protect them as they shield us from dangers and forces of evil in our world. We pray especially for our Commissioner, Robert Tracy, who leads the St. Louis Metro Police Department. Give him and all his administrators and law enforcement leaders your divine gifts of wisdom, prudence, and justice. We hear in the sacred scriptures and your holy prophets that love is best shown in deeds, not words. So we are grateful for the benefactors of this foundation who show their love, commitment, and support for these, our earthly protectors, who bring order, peace, and safety to our city. We are also grateful for this meal we are about to share, for those who prepared the meal and the hospitality of those who will serve it. May our conversations nourish our spirits, and may the food we enjoy nourish our bodies, so that body and soul will be renewed and refreshed. We pray all these things in your holy name, as together we say, Amen.
Thank you, Father. You can be seated. How about one more round of applause for Eva with that Star Spangled Banner? That was unbelievable. And considering how the Cardinals have been playing, that's the most exciting thing that's happened in downtown in months. Do the Cardinals have a table here, Doug? Sorry. Do they? Oh, well, they're big boys. They'll get over it. I stand up here really proud. I stand up here really proud to be hosting this event again, to be kind of the representative for my very, very good friend, Doug Albrecht, Michelle Craig, who puts this together and does an unbelievable job every year. Yes, a round of applause. There was one, and now it's going to spread everywhere. That's for Michelle, who works so hard on this event each and every year. And I'm proud because of not just the size of this room, but who's here. Our new police chief, our new commissioner, the mayor in attendance today, and then my good friend Troy Aikman, who I've been partners with on the air for 22 years. I am proud, yes, here to longevity. I'm proud to show off our city, and I'm proud to show off this room and how all of us get together and support our police officers. And what we do here today is such an important day for their calendar, for their year, and it certainly is for mine. So it's time to eat. We'll start the program on the back side of it, and I can't wait to get going today. So enjoy lunch. Talk to you in a little bit. If we can, I know most of you are finished with lunch. Try to get this started so we can get out of here in about an hour. And thank you all. Thank you all for being quiet. How about a nice round of applause for the staff here getting the lunches down, picked up. As we restart, I think we are starting the right way, and that is with our new police commissioner. In the history of the police department, there's never been a chief hired from outside the department, much less St. Louis, until recently. We want to welcome our new commissioner. It appears the mayor made a great choice in you. He's from the Bronx. First time I met him at the police prayer breakfast, he's like, hey, not for nothing, but why do you hate the Yankees? Like, I don't hate the Yankees. But you have a gun and a badge, and I'm sorry, is what I said. There's a lot of leadership in this room. I can't remember a time where we have had more leadership present at this fall luncheon, and that's important. It shows the cohesion and maybe the start of something new in our great city. Things are looking a lot more positive. So I want to bring to the microphone, I'm told that it's going to be 5 minutes. But if you know anybody from the Bronx, you know, they get rolling a little bit. Might be 5 minutes, might be 10 minutes, whatever. Please welcome our new police commissioner, Chief Robert Tracy.
Thanks, Joe. It's a pleasure to join you this afternoon. I appreciate the opportunity to share a few words. And just to echo Joe's comments, Eva, great job with the national anthem, as always, and as well as the honor guard, pipes and drums, and everyone else that's here. This is the 16th Fall Luncheon, and the program for the St. Louis Foundation has hosted, and I'm honored to attend. I'm honored to be here, I'm honored to speak, and I couldn't be more excited to be up here speaking for this group. There are so many partners and supporters in this room, and I'd like to say a few moments to recognize some of these individuals who are supporting the St. Louis Metropolitan Police Department as we make strides towards enhancing public safety in our community, not only here, but also in our county. First, I'd like to recognize Mayor Tashira Jones. If it was not for her, I would not be here. Thank you, Mayor. I would also like to recognize those members of the command staff and the ranks of the St. Louis Metropolitan Police Department who've joined us here today, as well as those who are patrolling the streets, manning 911, manning all the administrative jobs. Thank you very much for what you do each and every day. I'd also like to recognize Police Chief Ken Gregory and the members of the St. Louis County Police Department. Ken, thank you very much for that partnership, as well as all the other police departments that are represented here today, and the coalition and the memorandum of understanding. People think that we don't speak, we don't coordinate. We have to do that each and every day to keep this region safe. So I want to thank you for all your partnership in making sure that we're meeting, we're talking, we're seeing each other each and every day and sharing our communication with each other. Circuit Attorney Gabe Gore. Thank you, Circuit Attorney, for coming out of the position that you're doing and coming here and making sure that we're working together. And morale in the police department has jumped up 20-fold because of you and the things that you're doing in your office. So thank you. I saw Lieutenant Governor Mike Kehoe. Lieutenant Governor, thank you very much. I had to go down to Jefferson City in my first week to talk about state and local control. We won't get into that politics. Local control is where we did stay, right, Mayor? But I met Lieutenant Governor Mike Kehoe, who actually was gracious enough to break bread, and one of the first public officials I met from the state. Thank you very much for your hospitality to you and your wife. Thank you, Lieutenant Governor. We also have United States Attorney Sarah Fleming. Thank you. Thanks for the partnership that we have with our federal partners. Missouri Attorney General Andrew Bailey, who's sitting with us today. Thank you, sir. Got to get this one right. First public event, my wife is here, Brenda, at my table. Thank you very much, Brenda. And she's with my daughter, Samantha, with her new husband, Fabio. So thank you very much. And of course, our special guests, Joe Buck and Troy Aikman. Thank you guys for being here. And I'd be remiss if I didn't extend my gratitude and appreciation of our department to the St. Louis Police Foundation Board. Day in, day out, you provide support to our department and to our police officers, and we cannot thank you enough for what you do. Doug Albrecht and Michelle Craig, Joe talked about them, amazing work that you and your team do. And I'd also like to thank Laura and Paul Shaughnessy, who have been a long part of a success in the foundation's things that we do each day. Thank you very much, Paul and Laura. But Joe had a little fun with me a little while ago, didn't he? Well, I have the mic, but it's not going to be the last. You're going to have the mic last, so I got to be really careful here. So, Troy, I grew up as a Giant fan and a New York Yankee fan, diehard, born and raised in the Bronx. And all my friends who are law enforcement from the Bronx, we can understand when you're in the booth and there could be a little bit of bias when the Giants are playing and everything. But we'll give that to you for all the years that you played in the NFC East, winning those titles and doing a great job. You broke my heart a lot, but congratulations. And congratulations, and thank you for being here. It means so much. Joe, sometimes I see a little bit of bias against my Yankees. And I'm going to take some liberty here because some questions going to be asked of you. So I'm going to ask it up here as a chief. You have a storied history with your St. Louis Cardinals, well over 100 years. You have, I think, 11 World Series, right? The last time the Yankees and the Cardinals met was 1964. You actually took that series, right? So why in the world, if you have the most World Series in the National League, could you have any bias against the Yankees? Wait, there's an AL team. I don't know who that would be. I think it's the New York Yankees have 27 World Championships, and maybe that could be it, Joe. But why don't you answer that when you're behind the ropes, when you're with Troy Aikman and everything? I'll let you go do that. I'd also like to thank each and every one of you for being here and your support of our first responders. Even before I was selected by Mayor Jones to serve as the next police commissioner for the city of St. Louis, I was struck by tremendous support that our police department receives. Simply put, there are so many people who are rooting for this city to succeed, and the public safety is such a big part of that goal. I can say with certainty that of all the cities where I've served in law enforcement leadership positions, including New York City, Chicago, Wilmington, Delaware, this community does more to support the police officers than I've ever seen. Thank you very much for doing that. You actually do that. I am so very grateful for the work of the foundation and the projects you support, including initiatives that directly benefit our individual police officers, from supporting our officers who are organizing community events, to providing the tools, equipment, technology, and training our officers need to be successful. Your impact cannot be understated. And I know I speak for everyone who wears this uniform when I say how grateful we are for everything that you do. The close collaborations between our department and the foundation are a prime example of the power of public-private partnerships and are clear proof of just how much we can get done when we all work together to make our communities better. Right now, we're on the verge of so many great things in St. Louis. We are seeing continued influx of visitors from far and wide who are drawn to our city for what it has to offer. We are seeing an investment in our city and neighborhoods, and we're seeing improvements in public safety. At the St. Louis Metropolitan Police Department, we're implementing a range of proven crime strategies, and we're already seeing improvements so far this year. I'm excited to continue the work to move our department forward and to support our dedicated men and women, both in uniform and behind the scenes, as we work to make St. Louis even safer. Thank you again for having me. Thank you for what you're doing to make this a reality. God bless everyone. Thank you.
Thank you, Chief. I should have started after we rebooted this after lunch with having all of the members of law enforcement stand and be recognized by the rest of us for what you do each and every day. Stand up if you're in our police department. And with that, I am so excited to bring to the microphone the mayor of the city of St. Louis, the Honorable Tashara Jones.
Thank you, Joe, for that wonderful introduction. How's everybody doing? Good, good. I'm so honored to be here with you all for the St. Louis Police Foundation's 2023 Fall Luncheon. Again, I want to give everyone a round of applause, especially to our law enforcement that the foundation supports so overwhelmingly. So if we can have another round of applause. I also want to thank our event chairs, Paul and Laura Shaughnessy, and the leadership team and staff of the St. Louis Police Department Foundation, as well as the volunteers who made today a success, especially our wait staff. Can we give them a round of applause? Also, I'd like to echo the chief's sentiments in recognition of our state and federal partners who've already been named, the Police Foundation staff and board members, and the leadership and membership of the St. Louis Metropolitan Police Department. I'd also like to recognize any local elected officials here today. Would you please stand to be recognized? I saw some aldermen somewhere scattered amongst. With, excuse me, I'm loving this football theme. And as a sports fan myself, I'm honored to welcome the great Troy Aikman to the city of St. Louis. And since we don't have an NFL team here anymore, I'm a Chiefs fan. We got to root for the Missouri team first, right? But don't tell my partner that he's a Pittsburgh Steelers fan and we wear our Pittsburgh jerseys every time we see a game together. But without local control of our police department, we cannot reimagine public safety in our city, which is why the recent union contract, overwhelmingly approved by the membership, promotes and affirms St. Louis's local control of our police department while guaranteeing good raises to the hardworking officers and civilian staff of the St. Louis Metropolitan Police Department. We know what drives people to commit crime is multifaceted, so we need a multifaceted response as well. We need to address the root causes of violence through intervention and prevention while holding those who do commit crimes accountable. It can be a both and proposition, not an either or proposition. I believe we're moving in the right direction. Compared to this time in 2022, violent crime is down, property crime is also down compared to this time last year, and all property crime is down except for car thefts. And we're taking Kia and Hyundai to court to hold them accountable for the public safety hazard their vehicles have created on our streets. I always say, one victim of crime is one too many. A single life lost to gun violence, a single child harmed by guns is one too many. Countless families in our region, my own included, have felt the devastating pain of gun violence touch our lives. It's our officers who run into the face of danger or respond to its tragic aftermath, and their families and communities who support them when they come home each night. That's why we're deploying a collective all-hands-on-deck strategy to prevent crime. And St. Louis is making progress. This year, with the city's Office of Violence Prevention coordinating all of our resources under one roof, CVI groups, youth jobs and programs, and working in partnership with the St. Louis Metropolitan Police Department officers, we know alternative response models work while taking the burden off of our officers' shoulders. This is part of our city's commitment to reimagining public safety, thinking beyond the old and outdated arrest and incarcerate models that haven't lowered crime, nor have they made our neighborhoods safer. And honestly, that places our officers in danger in a state where guns are so prevalent. It's clear that even while many crime indicators are down in St. Louis over the past year, we have far more work to do to make sure St. Louisans feel safe in every neighborhood. I'm confident that together, we will continue to make St. Louis safer for residents, for visitors, for tourists, and especially our officers. The Police Foundation is a key partner in this work as well. Beyond its traditional support, the Police Foundation is collaborating with the police department on an innovative new pilot program to help us improve coordination during key times and locations in downtown St. Louis, while helping our districts deploy resources more effectively. To the men and women of the St. Louis Metropolitan Police Department, thank you for your service and dedication. This isn't an easy job, and for those of you who chose this life of service, I want you to know that I see you and I recognize all that you do. And to the families that support our brave men and women, thank you for sharing your loved ones with us. And last but certainly not least, on behalf of the City of St. Louis, thank you to the St. Louis Metropolitan Police Foundation for your unwavering dedication and making St. Louis a safer city. Thank you all, and God bless.
Thank you, Mayor. A great message, and I know a message that's appreciated by our next speaker and our final speaker before a short video, and then Troy. And that is Paul Shaughnessy, Luncheon Chairman, Foundation Board Member, and President and CEO of BSI Constructors.
Yeah, it's great being last. First, Joe Buck takes all my jokes, and then the chief uses all my material, so I'll make this short. First of all, I want to welcome everybody to the safest place in St. Louis right now. Rest easy. In behalf of my wife, Laura, and my colleagues at BSI, we're very honored to be able to be a presenting sponsor today. I know they've already been thanked, but I would like them to stand up. The Police Foundation Board does so much for the city and this department. If you could stand up and be recognized, board members. And it's already been mentioned, but our staff, Michelle Craig and Julie Reinheimer, thanks to them for putting this event on. I am a huge fan of lean and efficient organizations, and I can tell you it does not get leaner or more efficient than the St. Louis Police Foundation staff. I can assure all the generous sponsors here today who have made this event a great success, you can know that when you donate to this organization through your sponsorship or in any other way, the money's not going to administrative overhead, it's not going to fundraising expenses, it's going right to where it's needed. And that makes me feel good about it. I hope it does for you too. I also agree with the mayor. I think there's real cause for optimism. More than any time in several years, I feel there is a lot of optimism, a real vibe that things are starting to turn the corner. I think there's a consensus among more and more people about what needs to be done. And the obvious thing that we all know, that public safety is not a partisan issue. If you're a resident, you're a visitor, you're a business that's based in St. Louis, like we've been for 50 years, public safety is great for all of us, and we all know that. And I think the recognition, the teamwork, the coordination, I think is going to really help us turn the corner. And Mayor Jones, I think personnel is policy, so great credit to you for a very transparent and thorough process, and I think you've given us the chief that we need at this time, so thank you for that. And Chief Tracy, we can't thank you and Brenda enough and your family for accepting the challenge. And I've just been so impressed with the way that you have embraced your adopted city. You've been all in from day one, and if I didn't know better, I'd think you were a St. Louis native, except for the accent thing. We can work on that, yeah. So we know last several years have been a tough time to be a police officer, not just in St. Louis, but definitely in St. Louis. And that's why we at the foundation believe there's never been a more important time that private citizens could have a way to show their support for our defenders, first responders. And that's really why we exist as an organization. St. Louis Police Foundation, we have no say in department policy. We don't make any decisions. We certainly have no input when it comes to personnel decisions. We're just there to listen to the people who put themselves out there, the people on the front lines, to hear what they need to make their jobs more effective, to hopefully make their lives a little safer, and to show that even when times are tough, that this community, that we have your back. So thank you, and enjoy the rest of the show.
Thank you, Paul. Great job. Now we'll roll a short 5-minute video, and then we'll bring up the star, the Hall of Famer, the 3-time Super... just roll a video.
Hello, everybody, and welcome to Busch Stadium. I'm Todd Thomas, and all of us at Cardinals Nation would like to thank the St. Louis Police Foundation for making our region safe. For those of you that have ever been to a Cardinal game, you know that I love to have some fun and make some noise. Hey, are the Cardinals going to win and I make some noise? So this year, we decided to have some fun and ask officers a few simple questions about the St. Louis Police Foundation. Call it a cop quiz, if you will. And I get to ask the questions. Over the past 15 years, the St. Louis Police Foundation has funded hundreds of things. Name 3 of them.
I know they absolutely supported the move to our new police headquarters here.
Training.
Oh, technology.
They funded this mobile police station.
Family Day at Six Flags and license plate recognition systems.
One of them is this handsome man standing next to me.
Me? We're now implementing drones into our search warrants, so they bought the drones for us.
Medical dummies, medical supplies.
A mobile trailer that has like cameras on it.
Bicycles, shotguns, bulletproof vests, tactical flashlight, vehicle upgrades,
That's why he's the chief. Okay, clearly these officers know more than we thought. So let's go ask them some tougher questions. What is the motto of the St. Louis Police Foundation, the slogan, if you will?
The motto or the slogan? That's a great question.
Really, is that all you got?
Do you know what their motto is?
No.
I don't know the motto.
Solo, what's the motto of the St. Louis Police Foundation?
Help policemen.
To help policemen. Yeah, that would be a good one.
Yeah.
If I showed that to you, does that look familiar?
Yes, it does.
Can you read my shirt?
Serving the city, investing in inventing.
I love the inventing.
Investing in a safer St. Louis.
You got it right. You're really good at this job.
Investing in a safer St. Louis.
There you go. Investing in a safer St. Louis. How much money has been raised by the St. Louis Police Foundation over the past 15 years?
I couldn't even give you a straight answer. I have no clue, but it's got to be a lot.
Hundreds and hundreds of thousands of dollars. Definitely over $1 million.
Just throw a number out there.
$5 million.
I'd guess over $20 million at minimum.
$75 million.
$75 million.
$500 million.
$500 million.
$1 billion.
$1 billion. If I were to tell you that you need to take that 1 times 36, what do you end up with?
$36 million.
Would you believe? 36 million.
Whoa!
$36 million, Captain Tony.
Wow, that's a lot. That is a lot.
Nitro, anything in closing? Okay, we're done with Nitro. Whoa, maybe I was being a little too tough. You know what? What if I asked a question that virtually everyone should know? Can you name the 2 Hall of Fame broadcasters that currently broadcast Monday Night Football on ESPN?
Probably not.
Hell no. That's a hell no. Can you name them both?
No.
Well, thanks for trying.
Is Dan Deerdorf one? No.
Terry,
Bradshaw?
Bradshaw, that's him.
Is it Costas? Costas? Is that how you pronounce his last name?
Hey, Alexa.
Al. Blavatsky? You ever heard of the name Joe Buck?
No. No.
Joe Buck. Okay. You know him?
Yeah, he was a football player. He was a quarterback, right?
Have you ever heard the name Troy Aikman?
No.
Let's say Troy Aikman and Joe Buck and Mike Shanahan.
Who are the 2 announcers who are Hall of Famers for Monday Night Football on ESPN?
Troy Aikman and Joe Buck.
Holy that's why you gotta be kidding me. That's why we didn't even prompt him. Okay, we got a little fun and a lot of laughs. But what matters most isn't the facts, figures, or slogans. What matters most is how much all our officers appreciate the hard work of the St. Louis Police Foundation. And of course, your tremendous support.
Every day when these officers put on their uniform and go out there, they know that they have the backing of the St. Louis Police Foundation.
It means a lot to know that, somebody has our back and that they can help us get the tools we need to do the job we do every day.
It shows us that people and business out there actually support us. They actually putting their money where their mouth is, and they're actually showing us that they support us.
This takes it to a new level, and the amount of investment that I see and the people caring and the amount of money they raise. It's just truly incredible work that they do and the partnership that we have.
Thank you guys so much. We could not have done this without you, and you guys are very much appreciated. Thank you.
It works great. That was great. And one thing you need to realize is that there's a QR code at everybody's table on that little placard that I think sometimes we all go to these events and you see these things happening. You watch the video, Troy's making his way up here. You're about to see why when people meet me on the street or in person, they think I'm like 5'2". This is Troy Aikman. I'll introduce him in just a second, but there's your seat, pal. So use that QR code and please donate, because while what was the number, $36 million is pretty mind-blowing that's been raised, more is needed. This is an ongoing issue, and obviously any little bit that you can do will go a long way. There's some people out here that I want to introduce to you. I made the joke about the Cardinals earlier, but their president is back here, and obviously a huge part of the family that's brought so much success to the organization since they started, and they started owning the team in 1996. Is that right? Bill DeWitt is back here. Billy, thank you for being here with Matt Gifford and his Cardinal table. And then a couple of former Blues are at that table. I see my friend Bruce Affleck, and the great Barrett Jackman is right there at table 36. Thank you guys for being here. There are two Hall of Famers in our midst. Why are you taking a drink right now? Nervous to stand up. He's been a part of this every year. If I've been here 15 years, he's been here at least 15 years. Our good friend Chris Pronger is right here in the front. You're not even going to stand up. We don't get a stand up. They're all hunched over. My back hurts. The knees are shot. Stand up from you? No. Okay. I want to embarrass Troy for a quick second. This is our 22nd year together on television, despite what the St. Louis Police Department knows about who's doing Monday Night Football or what our names even are. We've been together 22 years. I learned the first year that we were paired together with Chris Collinsworth what it takes to be a Hall of Fame athlete and the dedication and the kind of way somebody lives their life. He's somebody that I look up to in that department. When I asked Troy, and we've had Chris, and we've had Dan Deerdorf, and we've had Ozzy year after year after year, and Doug said, why don't we try something different? Who can we bring in? And my mind immediately went to the same person that Doug's mind went to, and that was Troy. Troy is a Hall of Fame player, yes. He won Super Bowls with the Dallas Cowboys, which obviously has proved to be impossible since he left. But he's also somebody that has always enjoyed, I can honestly say from the bottom of my heart, every time we did a game in St. Louis, and it crushed me when it was said by the mayor, we don't have a football team in St. Louis, that still hurts. But when he would come, he was like, you know what, I really like St. Louis. Every time the guy shows up, the weather's perfect, the birds are chirping a little prettier, the breeze is going through the trees. It's kind of weird, but he loves this city. And when I said, will you come in? Doug said, we'll pay for every expense that he incurs coming in. He flew here today. And I said, Doug wants to pay for your jet fuel. All that. He said, tell Doug to put it to the officers. Yeah, and that's just the kind of person he is. So I will start with this question as I segue to this really misshapen stool, which I will probably slide off of at some point. And it's going down further than I thought it would. I think it's on. Now it's off. Now it's on.
Okay.
Why is law enforcement and supporting law enforcement so personal and such a priority for you?
Yeah, first of all, it's great to be here. It really is. I've got family that's police officers, generational. I was talking earlier to Michelle. My cousin is a police officer out in Southern California, but it runs pretty deep first and foremost. And I've just had a great appreciation over the years, whether it's from that, from seeing family members serve, or just really have an appreciation for how difficult the job is. I think that in the world of athletics and competition, we use the words heroic and tough and all these different adjectives that really don't apply as much to athletics as what they do to men and women at war, and certainly our men and women in uniform, and the great job that you guys do is nothing short of impressive. It's pained me over the years when I think the police departments across the country have been painted in a bad light. I think they're like any profession. There's probably some that are not great people, or however you want to couch that, but I just have great appreciation and admiration for the people who put their lives on the line each and every night for our protection. And I think it's a thankless job, and that's why I think it's great what's happening here today is a chance that I'm sure many of you don't get often enough, an opportunity for us to basically say thank you for all the work that you do. It means a lot.
Great answer. At some point here, I want to open it up to questions. I talked to Troy quite a bit. We've been together, as I said, for a generation now, 22 years, which is crazy to think about. And I would imagine, somebody asked us, I think it was Schefter, digging around on his podcast the other day, that you've been a broadcaster 22 years, you were a player for 12. That's crazy to me, because I think of Troy Aikman as the Hall of Fame quarterback, not the announcer, but there's a whole generation now of people that know you as just the announcer. That's nuts.
Well, it is. It's crazy that I got to this point, quite honestly, because when I first got into broadcasting, my first year was 2001, and I worked with Dick Stockton and a former teammate of mine, and Daryl Johnston, and then a year later, John Madden went to Monday Night Football, and that's when Joe and I and then Chris Collinsworth got paired in my second year, 2002. And to think that we are still doing it, and now he and I have done it longer than even Pat and John did it as a duo, as a pair, as a partnership is crazy, because I thought I'd do it for 2 or 3 years and figure out what I wanted to do with my life, and here I am, and here we are, still doing it after all these years. It's been incredible. When I left, and the timing that it all took place at ESPN, I was leaving to ESPN. I was having conversations with Joe as to whether or not he was going to be able to come. We thought maybe best case scenario would be that he would be coming a year later. He had a year left on his contract, and fortunately, he was able to talk to Fox. They let him out of his deal. So for us to be able to continue and work at ESPN and continue our time together now in our 22nd year is really incredible, and very thankful for it.
Yeah, I would imagine that it's not too much unlike, people that are on the beat, or people that are, looking to their left or right in the car, knowing who's riding with them. There's a certain amount of security, or for Prongs or Barrett, playing next to somebody in a defensive pairing or whatever it might be. You know what the other person is thinking. You know kind of where they're going before they actually go there themselves. And it's kind of an odd thing that you have this unspoken communication, but we do. I can tell when he's ready to talk just by subtle movements that he makes during the course of a play or a ball game that I know it's time for me to shut up and let the star talk. That's pretty much how he laid it out to me 22 years ago. He said, you need to get the one thing straight. By the way, at the end of his run with the Cowboys, he knew his time was up, and the Cowboys stunk when I showed up with Tim Green to broadcast their games. They were so bad that they sent me to do their games back at a time in my career where I was not doing any one of the top games at Fox or anywhere else. And he hung it up shortly thereafter. Go ahead.
When we got paired at Fox, I was such an important part of this 3-man team in 2002 that my flight was delayed getting to New York for the press conference. And when I arrived, they had decided to start the press conference without me. I walked in 30 minutes into the press conference, and it was like, hey, I think I'm a part of this deal here. And yeah, so Joe says, I thought that was the first time we had met. He reminded me of the time he did a game of mine late in my career. And yeah, so that was the impact. That was the
impact I had. I walked in with Tim Green, and Tim was making small talk like, hey, how you doing? Troy's like, yeah, I'm great. We're 4-9. I'm great. Like, how the kids? How's everybody? He's like, Is this what we're going to talk about for the next 15 minutes? Because if so, I got stuff to do. If you got any questions about our teams? Like, okay, that didn't go well. But somehow here we are, 22 years later. There is a huge sports story these days, and I think it's the number one topic talked about, and that is your former teammate who you sat down with to interview before his first game as the head coach of the Colorado Buffaloes, Deion Sanders. He has turned that thing around seemingly overnight.
Yeah.
First of all, did you ever think back in the day when you guys were teammates that he had that side to him that he would want to coach and put up with all that goes into coaching, whether it's at the college level or high school or NFL or whatever? And two, are you surprised by the kind of success he's had?
Yeah, that's a complicated answer to a really good question because of my relationship with Deion and all the facets that I've seen of him over the years. He was a complicated player, as most of you know that followed his career. A highly talented and gifted athlete, being able to play baseball at a high level, played in the World Series, and then in the same day, he's starting for the Atlanta Falcons as a corner, and it's just unheard of type abilities. He was the best corner that I ever played against. I think most people would agree with this. He's the greatest defensive back that's ever walked the earth. What he's dealing with for a guy who is as athletic as he is with his foot, for those of you that have followed Deion, he's lost a couple of toes. He's had some issues. He's had 12 surgeries, having a hard time even standing on the sidelines for a 3-hour ball game. But he did coach his son and sons when they were young. And he kind of followed those guys, like a lot of you men here in the audience, coached your sons when they were younger, and Deion did that. And then as they continued to grow, he kept up with it. And then he had a high school that was coaching these kids. But I really thought that's kind of where it would end for him. And I'm really not quite sure what the motivation was for him to take the Jackson State job a few years back. But I know when he took that job, I was really proud of him then, because it's one thing to coach a youth team. It's another thing, and then for us as broadcasters, it's real easy to stand on television and talk about how this coach did this wrong and how they should have done this, and everybody's a critic. But for him to put himself out there really and expose himself, even though it was a smaller college, HBCU, it was a much bigger stage from the one he had ever been on, and he did a terrific job. I wasn't surprised by his success there because I do think he has a unique ability to communicate with the kids of today. And that certainly showed itself there at Jackson State. And then I thought maybe that might be it for him. But when he took the Colorado job, they won one game. And so for those of you that followed the game against TCU on Saturday, it was really amazing. I mean, now he totally turned over the roster, 75, 80 different players, whatever it is. But the coach that I see in Deion is a little different than the player. Deion's always had a personality. He's always going to be the guy that the camera gravitates to. But he is much more of an old school coach than he was as a player. And what I'm most proud of, and forget the wins. I mean, the wins are great, and that's what he's paid to do. But I honestly believe he's given a lot of young men some direction, and he's teaching them how to be really respectable young men that are accountable and going to make a difference in society. So I think all of these kids that he's been coaching, that when they get out of college, yeah, they're going to continue to win a lot of football games, but I think he's preparing them for life. And that's something that I know he's really proud of as well.
Yeah, it's important. No doubt about it. You and I on Monday night will be in the Meadowlands, not for the Giants, Chief. They're on Sunday night, but we'll be there for the Jets and Aaron Rodgers, his debut with the New York Jets as their quarterback. You and I have covered him since he took over as a starter 15 years ago. We've done 1 million of his games. How do you think he'll do with the Jets? Did you watch Hard Knocks on HBO, and are you surprised with the kind of hype they're getting going into this season?
Not surprised. I have watched Hard Knocks. I think, as you know, Aaron's very aware that cameras are around and he's mic'd, and so I think maybe that's been a really good thing for the Jets because I think they are I think they are getting maybe a little bit of a softer version of Aaron because of it. He's highly motivated. He's very driven. He's demanding. I do think that, spending 4 and 5 days in dark caves, I think it's softened him a little bit. I do believe that. But yeah, I'm excited about it. I think they're legitimate. They're really good. They were good last year. The quarterback play wasn't good enough to allow them to win. I just wonder what it's going to look like when the honeymoon ends, because at some point it's going to, and it could very well happen on Monday night. Joe and I were in New Orleans back in, I guess, 2020, when Tom Brady opened up with the Tampa Bay Buccaneers against the Saints, and it was not very good. The offense didn't look good. He threw 2 interceptions. One was a pick six, and they lost the game, and yet they went on to win the Super Bowl. But for the Jets, it's a great opener against a really good football team, and I think they'll be good, but there's going to be a bump in the road, and then how do they handle that? Because right now, maybe they're a little too optimistic internally, considering they haven't made the playoffs even in 12 years or whatever it's been. But I'm excited to follow him and that football team.
You mentioned Tom Brady. It's a fascinating conversation because there have been others who have been considered the best of the best. Joe Montana's a guy that jumps to mind, who got off the field, good-looking, smart, obviously knows the game, Hall of Fame player, but as a broadcaster, it didn't really work. When I was leaving Fox, they were waving Tom Brady in front of my face to try to get me to stay or get me to leave. I don't know, one or the other. And I wanted the known quantity, which is this person who's sitting to my left. I want to ask you how you think that transition, because you did it, how you think that transition will go for Tom, and what are some of the harder things for somebody just off the field to figure out in a short amount of time what it means to be a broadcaster?
Yeah, I think he'll be great. Primarily because this is a job like most jobs, you just have to put in the work. And athletes get into television, and there's this idea that you know the game, and so therefore you really don't have to put in the work, getting to know the teams. You can just go in and talk about the football game. And I think that's a huge mistake. And I don't think Tom will do that. Tom will definitely do what's required. But there are a lot of adjustments. And so much of television, I think very little of it comes down to actually how much football you know. There's just not enough time. I think everyone who gets into this profession, whether you're a studio analyst, and especially if you're a game analyst, you think you're going to educate the viewer on all the little intricacies of the game. There's just not enough time. And there's less time now than there was when I first got into this, because offenses are playing so fast. So, the mechanics of the job, I'm supposed to be done talking. Doesn't always happen, but I'm supposed to be done talking by the snap of the ball so that Joe can do his job. And so you get into talking about something, and all of a sudden they break the huddle, and trying to wrap that comment up into something that makes at least some sense is not easy to do. The other part of it, and Joe can speak to this more than I can, I think a lot of analysts come into the game and they are so used to being interviewed. They've been interviewed their entire careers. And it's not an interview in the broadcast booth. I don't know any play-by-play guy who wants to interview the analyst and say, hey, what do you think about this? What do you think they should do here? Or what would, so he's going to have to be able to jump in there and answer, those questions that he feels the viewers are asking without the play-by-play asking him that. But when I first got into broadcasting, I found that there is so much happening in a booth. There's just a lot going on. There's a lot of people talking to you. There's breaks, of course, but there's roll-ins. There's papers typically kind of going back and forth amongst people. There's a lot of, at times, mayhem. It's much less with Joe. I think that one of the great things working with Joe prides himself on really having a more calm, relaxed booth. But I've been in some to where it's pretty intense, and trying to just calm all that down and deliver the analysis it can be challenging. And just like playing quarterback, things tend to slow down with time the more you do it, and the more reps you get. The difference between playing quarterback in the NFL and broadcasting is if you don't throw a route particularly well, if I didn't throw a comeback route particularly well, I'd go spend the next 6 days working on it, and I'd probably be better the following Sunday than I was the prior Sunday. Whereas in broadcasting, it's all live reps. You really, you can't stand in front of the mirror and practice the craft. You don't do that, right?
Not anymore.
Okay, okay, good. But yeah, so it's all live reps, and you just got to learn. And someone once said to me that improvement in broadcasting is from one year to the next, whereas in athletics it's from 1 week to the next, and I found that to be true.
I remember you telling me at the beginning the hard thing for you was that there was no scoreboard, and you were used to having a quarterback's coach, an offensive coordinator, a head coach, somebody who gave you feedback to say, hey, this was good, this needs work. And none of that really exists when you get out.
So the first game I did, I was working with, like I said, my former teammate Daryl Johnston, and we were flying back after the game. Well, there's 5 minutes left in the game. It was a good game, tight game. Game ends. It was a good finish. And when you put the headset down, and everyone on the crew is all heading to the airport. Everybody has a flight to catch, and they're all going to miss their flight if they don't get out of there right now. It's always down to the wire. And so everybody's saying, hey, great job, see you later, hey, see you next week, I'll touch base with you on Wednesday. And it's like, holy smokes, I mean, what's going on? And so Daryl and we got on the plane and we take off, and I'm still trying to figure out what happened. We were having this great game, and then the game ended, and all hell broke loose. And so we get on the plane, and I look over to him, about 20 minutes into the flight, I said, what just happened? And he's like, well, what do you mean? He had been doing it a few years already. And I said, man, we just did this game, this and that. And so he says, yeah, so that took some real getting used to for me, in that you don't have the feedback. I'll tell you one quick story. Joe and I, we called a game in Arizona, Super Bowl. And it was it was your New York Giants. That was a big day for you. And when they beat the undefeated New England Patriots. So great finish, the helmet catch, Plexico Burris makes the winning touchdown, and all that. Fox was having a party at the hotel. I was staying at a different hotel. My wife at the time, we went and had dinner, and Ron Jaworski comes up to me, and he says, oh, man, what a game. That was great. He's all excited, and I said, yeah, it was good. And, oh, the helmet catch. I mean, who would have imagined that, can you believe he caught that? And I said, yeah, it was pretty good, Ron. And he looks at me and says, what's wrong with you? And I said, nothing, Ron. I said, but I didn't do anything. I mean, I just talked about it. I didn't play. I said, if I had played, I've played in those games, and I'd be out celebrating and have a hell of a time. And he kind of looked at me funny, and he walked away. And I remember right then, I said to my wife, I said, if this is as good as this job gets, I may have just called the biggest game that I'll ever call in this career. But if this is the feeling I have, I'm in the wrong profession. I never felt emptier. I never felt less accomplished. But I will say that I don't know what changed it. But from that moment on, the very next year when we went back to work, I've never felt that way again. I've never had that low. So not having the scoreboard, not having the sense of achievement as a player, no longer affects me. And now I do walk out of games and know whether or not it was a good broadcast, or if I did my part, or if we did our part. And I get total satisfaction out of it. And I guess that's why I'm still doing it.
How about time for 2 quick questions? Is that good, Michelle? Is that about right? 2 questions. If somebody wants to stand up and shout one out, I'm sure we can hear it. If not, I have 300 other questions I can ask Troy. Yes, back in the back.
How you doing, guys? Quick question, just kind of light-hearted. First of all, do you guys have fantasy football? And are you guys have a team? And what's your buy-in for that?
Buy-in mean monetarily?
Yes.
Oh, I just got back into a league with friends here in St. Louis. We used to have one with our production team, our producer, director, guys that helped on the broadcast, and it became really competitive to the point where when you're broadcasting a game and your quarterback is in the game, it affected the way I broadcast the game. It's like, Jesus, you know, you're thinking to yourself like, yeah, the guy's wide open. That's 6 points for me. Like, that's what you're thinking. I've also done a game with a guy who I am quite certain, I won't say his name, and it's not him, I'm quite certain was betting on the games because at one point he said, yeah, you know, with that field goal, the Patriots are now down 4.5. I'm like, okay. Interesting. File that one away. So I am back in a league. I was out for a couple of years. Both my daughters are in fantasy football leagues. You, sir, are not.
I am not. I was in the league that he's talking about with our crew. We did have a draft night. It was on the heels of a preseason game we were going to be calling the next night, and I drank the Kool-Aid for Tampa. I drafted all 3 of their running backs. I thought they were going to be really good that year, and that didn't help me. Joe's team actually, he won our league a couple of times. I can't remember the name of his team, but it was I remember being a good, yes, a really good one. But yeah, I got it. I just couldn't keep up with it all. I'd have players playing that were on bye weeks, and that was one team. I don't even know how anyone plays in more than one league, but I know plenty people do.
Yeah, it's like a job. I won't tell you the name of my team right now, but I have run into people that are like, hey, how you doing? You know the name of my fantasy football team is Joe Buck Yourself. Thank you. Anyway, somebody else? Anybody else got one back in the, yeah, right here, Chris.
Jimmy Johnson or Barry Switzer stories. You won a Super Bowl. I'm sorry. So motivation, you talked a little bit about. Chief Tracy talks a lot about motivation in the department and individual. And I want to hear some Jimmy Johnson or Barry Switzer stories. You were hungry and on the high to get that first Super Bowl. How do you get motivated as a quasi-leader on the team quarterback for Super Bowl 2 or 3 and two different, totally different leadership skills on Switzer and Johnson? Thank you.
Yeah, I love Barry Switzer, but he was a great motivator in college. He was kind of enjoying himself in Dallas, so I don't know if he was motivating a lot of people. But I will say that Jimmy was fantastic. Jimmy was a psychology major at Arkansas, and he really prided himself on that and his ability to motivate people. And I remember when he came into the league in 1989, which was my rookie year as well. He came in when Jerry bought the team, and there was this idea back then in pro sports that, hey, these guys are professionals. They don't need to be motivated. Don't come in with the college rah-rah stuff, and just write them the checks, tell them what to do, and they'll go play. And Jimmy didn't buy into that. And he made it real clear. He felt like everyone in life can be motivated, and I believe that. I believe it. Maybe I believe it because I saw it. I saw it with him. And what he was great at, he was a great coach, but he was an even better evaluator of talent. But I saw him where we had a young safety that was struggling, wasn't playing with much confidence, and Jimmy in our team meeting singled him out and told him, he said, whatever his name was, and said, you're a great player, you're going to be a Pro Bowl player this year. And everyone that knew him was just kind of, thinking, guys, is he talking about the same guy, that we know? But he built this guy up so much that when we went out to practice that day, that young player, he carried himself differently when he hit the practice field. And he didn't make the Pro Bowl, but he became a big contributor to our football team and was a really good player. I remember our first Super Bowl, we were the youngest team in the league. And so we're getting ready to play the Buffalo Bills, who had been to the Super Bowl the 2 prior years. They had lost both of those, but here now they're playing us, and it's our first Super Bowl. It's their 3rd consecutive. And I thought Jimmy that week was as good as he had ever been in talking to the team. He didn't always walk in and try to motivate. He just had a good pulse on what needed to be said at any given moment. But he gave us this speech that week, and it's one that I'll never forget. In fact, he told it to Bill Belichick, and Bill Belichick used it before one of their Super Bowls. But so maybe y'all have heard it. I've seen that it's circulated a little bit in the press, but if not, he asked the question. Everyone, it was a team meeting. Everybody's in there, and he said, "I want to ask everybody a question." He says, "If I laid down a 12-foot 2x4 board and laid it on the ground, how many of you think you could walk across that 2x4?" And he said, "Show of hands." So everybody's imagining. I want you to imagine that. So everybody's imagining. Yeah, I mean, we're athletes. We can walk the plank, in 12 feet. Well, then he says, "Well, now I want you to imagine that we're suspending that between two skyscrapers, and same 2x4, same 12-foot length. How many now? I want you to visualize that. How many now think that you could walk that?" And guys were then a little bit hesitant as to whether or not they wanted to even attempt that. And he said, "Look, it's the same degree of difficulty, same board. It's just in your mind, you're seeing it much differently." And his point was, the game that we're about to play is the same game we've been playing all season long. It's just a bigger stage, but the rules are the same. How we're going to execute is the same. Blah blah blah. And I just thought that he had those types of messages to us. And he was great. He was really great at getting the team prepared to play, and it was one of the reasons why I enjoyed playing for him so much.
I hope that over the past half hour, as time flies by when you're sitting up here and you get to listen to somebody like Troy, you realize how great of a person he is. We're about the same age. We've been through a lot of stuff off the field together at about the same time. Been in the booth. We have each other's backs, and it's just an honor. It's an honor for me to get to bring him back into St. Louis, to be here today, and I know it's an honor for him to be here talking to us. So, Troy, thank you.
Yeah, no, thank you, Joe. Love this guy like a brother. It's been fantastic. Cannot imagine working for anyone else. And I will say that what Joe said to start is St. Louis has always been a special place to me. I've always enjoyed the people. I've had great times when I've been here, and that's number one. But when he said that, "Hey, can you come in and be a part of this for the police department in St. Louis?" That was a no-brainer. So it's an honor to be a part of this program. Again, I want to thank all the men and women in uniform. Chief, thank you, and all the best to all of you, and stay safe. Thank you so much.
Okay, once again, if you can, maybe take a picture of that QR code or get on there. A couple of years ago, I think Michelle just looked it up. Just by people clicking on that thing, it raised an extra $30,000 for this great organization. So doesn't matter what it is, how much it is, just do it if you can. Right now, I've only failed to do this once, maybe twice. It's time for the retiring of our colors. Thank you all for coming. Year 16 is in the books for the men and women in law enforcement. Stay safe. God bless. Thanks for coming.